So imagine the most technologically advanced, like hyper-efficient skyscraper you can possibly think of in Montreal.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, so picture touchless access, zero carbon energy systems, and, an indoor environment that's completely tailored to maximize human
It's
wellness.
very futuristic.
It does, right. But now imagine that the actual physical bones of that exact building were poured back when, like, most office workers were still typing on IBM Selectrics and smoking at their desks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is quite the contrast.
It's a huge paradox, and it's exactly what we're looking at today because, if you take a walk through the downtown core of almost any major city right now, there's this, I don't know, this lingering anxiety in the air.
Oh, definitely. You can feel it.
Yeah, the whole era of remote and hybrid work has just left these sprawling, towering office buildings uncomfortably quiet. And it's sparking a very real fear that our downtowns might just slowly fade into, well, obsolete ghost towns.
I mean, it is arguably the defining urban challenge of this decade.
Mm-hmm.
We engineered these staggering vertical skylines for a centralized way of working that simply, it just doesn't exist in that same unyielding format anymore.
Right.
The sheer volume of square footage just sitting idle is unprecedented, and city planners are, frankly, scrambling to figure out what comes next.
Exactly. So today we have a stack of project analyses, fact sheets, and real estate articles detailing one very specific and highly ambitious answer to that challenge. We are doing a deep dive into the transformation of 600 de la Gauchetière West.
Or, as the locals call it, 600 DLG.
Yeah, 600 DLG. So the mission for this deep dive is to explore how a 40-year-old concrete monolith is currently undergoing a $250 million smart conversion.
Which is a massive budget.
Massive, because what is happening at 600 DLG isn't just like a local real estate story. It's serving as a literal blueprint for how cities everywhere can resurrect their aging infrastructure. Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the sheer scale of the void that triggered this entire project.
Scale is definitely the operative word here, because to understand the stakes, you really have to understand the physical and historical footprint of this asset.
Right.
So it was built in 1983. It stands 28 floors high, stretches 138 meters into the Montreal skyline, and it holds over 710,000 square feet of space.
That is just a massive footprint.
It really is. And for nearly 4 decades, the building's identity was completely inseparable from its sole major tenant. Like if you referenced 600 DLG, you were universally understood to be talking about the National Bank of Canada's headquarters.
It's so hard to separate a building from a single tenant when they've been intertwined for 40 years.
Oh, absolutely.
But then, the catalyst hits. National Bank decides to relocate just a few blocks away to a brand new tower at 800 Saint-Jacques.
Yeah, a huge move.
Right. And in one single move, they abandon all 28 floors. So suddenly there's this 710,000 square foot vacuum right in the middle of the urban core, which is like the exact scenario that terrifies local economies.
Oh, it's the kind of systemic shock that can just drain the economic vitality out of the surrounding city blocks. But the narrative shifted when Canadian National Railway, or CN, stepped in.
They really saved the day there.
They did. They signed a 20-year lease for the first 18 floors, taking over roughly 440,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah, which equates to about 63% of the entire tower. As we look at the data now in 2026, CN's gradual move-in is actively underway. They're targeting full occupation by 2028.
But hold on, I have to ask, moving a corporate headquarters of that magnitude is just a logistical nightmare.
Oh, for sure.
So if a powerhouse company like CN has the capital, right, and a ability to lock down a 2-decade lease for hundreds of thousands of square feet, why settle for a 1980s hand-me-down?
That's a great question.
Because the prevailing trend for years has been for massive corporations to just, buy cheap land out in the suburbs and build a sprawling, highly customized campus from scratch. Why take on the congestion and constraints of the urban core?
Well, what's fascinating here is the macroeconomic strategy behind that choice. Retaining CN's headquarters in the downtown core is a highly deliberate maneuver to prevent the exact suburban sprawl you're describing.
Interesting. So it's intentional.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
When a corporation of that size moves out to the suburbs, the ripple effects are severe. The daily foot traffic just vanishes.
Right. The coffee shops, the lunch spots.
Exactly. The localized spending at restaurants and retail evaporates, and transit systems lose massive ridership. By anchoring thousands of CN employees in the city center, it guarantees the downtown remains a vital, living economic engine.
It sustains that critical mass.
Right. It maintains the human density required for a neighborhood to actually function properly.
Okay, so the economic rationale is totally solid. Keeping them downtown protects the ecosystem. But that brings us to the physical engineering challenge.
The hard part.
Yeah, the really hard part. Even if the economics make sense, you still have to convince a modern, like highly mobile workforce to spend their days inside a structure poured in 1983. How do you actually bring a 4-decade-old building up to the expectations of a post-pandemic workforce without simply, bringing in the wrecking balls?
Well, you execute a strategy the industry calls a smart conversion.
A smart conversion, okay.
Yeah, the developer, Kevrick, alongside architectural firms NE, US, and WZMH, and the general contractor, JCD Construction Canada, they opted for structural surgery,
Structural surgery.
basically. Instead of demolishing the tower, they made this incredibly complex engineering choice to adapt and reuse the original 1983 concrete slabs and the underlying steel framework.
Oh, I see. So it's essentially like keeping the heavy, ultra-reliable chassis of a classic car, but like completely tearing out the old gas-guzzling engine and swapping it for a brand new, highly efficient EV motor and a fully digital dashboard.
That analogy captures the mechanics perfectly, and the reason you don't just crush that old chassis into rubble comes down to a concept called embodied carbon.
Embodied car.
Yes, because when you construct a new skyscraper from scratch, you generate thousands of tons of greenhouse gas emissions just through the manufacturing of new steel, the chemical processes of curing new concrete, and the heavy logistics of transporting all those materials.
Right. All the trucks and cranes.
Exactly. So by choosing to salvage the 1983 structure, Kevrick reduced the project's overall carbon footprint by nearly 40%.
Wait, 40%? That is a staggering reduction.
It really puts it in perspective.
It highlights just how carbon-intensive the construction industry really is. I mean, if you can just avoid pouring new concrete, you are instantly making a profound environmental impact.
Precisely. The building's true value in the modern era is no longer tied to its chronological age. Its value is dictated entirely by its capacity for technological reinvention.
Okay, let's dig into that reinvention, because to turn a solid concrete block into a smart building, they had to completely change the interface it has with the outside world.
They really did.
Yeah, they ripped off the entire exterior facade. And by the spring of 2025, they installed a high-performance curtain wall using this specialized Quebec-based technology called Umbrella.
Oh, the umbrella system is just a brilliant piece of engineering.
How does it work?
So traditionally, replacing a facade on a skyscraper requires these massive disruptive tower cranes that block city streets and expose workers to severe weather.
Right, which is a nightmare downtown.
Total nightmare.
Oh.
Umbrella essentially functions as a protective, enclosed workspace that climbs the exterior of the building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it allows construction teams to install the new facade floor by floor in a weather-protected environment, which dramatically speeds up the process and reduces the disruption to the urban core down below.
That is so cool. And when they installed this new curtain wall, they fundamentally altered the architecture. They doubled the glazed glass surfaces, taking it from 1/3 of the facade to 2/3.
Which completely changes the look.
It does. And the obvious goal is to flood the interior with natural light, which is, crucial for a modern workspace. But from a purely physical standpoint, doesn't doubling the amount of glass on a high-rise just turn the entire structure into a giant greenhouse?
You would think so.
Yeah, because the analyses project a 20% reduction in operating energy costs. How is that even possible when you have twice as much glass baking in the summer sun and radiating heat away in the brutal Montreal winter?
It seems entirely counterintuitive on the surface. But this is where the specific mechanics of a high-performance curtain wall come into play.
Okay, walk me through it.
Well, the single or standard double-pane glass utilized in the 1980s was notoriously poor at insulating. However, modern thermal envelopes are heavily engineered systems.
So it's not just regular glass.
Far from it.
Yeah.
They utilize advanced glazing treatments, multiple panes separated by insulating gases like argon, and specialized thermal breaks within the aluminum framing. These materials work in concert to trap internal energy and deflect external temperatures far more efficiently than the solid concrete walls of 40 years ago.
Ah, so the new glass systems are actually better insulators than the solid opaque walls they replaced.
They are drastically superior, and that thermal efficiency is coupled with complete decarbonization of the building's energy system.
I got rid of the gas, right?
They did. They've entirely abandoned the legacy natural gas heating infrastructure. The entire 28-story facility is being converted to run on Quebec's clean hydroelectric grid.
That transition effectively makes it a zero-carbon operating facility, and the technological integration goes far beyond just the power source.
Oh, absolutely.
They're rolling out touchless access systems throughout the building, automated climate controls, and they're actively targeting a suite of rigorous industry benchmarks, including LEED Gold, Zero Carbon, and WELL certifications.
The WELL certification is particularly noteworthy.
Yeah, what's the difference between WELL and LEED?
Well, while LEED focuses primarily on the environmental efficiency of the building itself, WELL is a standard focused entirely on how the building impacts human biology.
Wait, really? Human biology?
Yeah, it measures air quality, water purity, nourishment, light exposure, and even fitness integration. Achieving it means the building is actively engineered to improve the health of the people inside it.
That is wild. Upgrading to those kinds of standards, though, requires an immense injection of capital. The budget is north of $250 million.
It is a massive investment.
But the financial documents show this intriguing mechanism paying for this, a green loan. And the lead lender on that loan is actually the National Bank, the very same tenant who vacated the building.
The irony there is fantastic.
Right. But how does a green loan differ from traditional financing in a project like this?
It's a financial instrument that directly aligns capitalist incentives with environmental necessities. In a traditional loan, the interest rate is relatively static, based on standard financial risk. But with a green loan, the interest rate is dynamically linked to the building's sustainability performance.
Oh, so it changes based on how green they get.
Exactly. If Kevrick hits their specific, predetermined carbon reduction and energy efficiency targets, their borrowing costs actually drop.
Wow.
The bank is financially rewarding the decarbonization effort, which proves that the broader financial sector now views sustainable retrofits as highly profitable, low-risk investments.
So what does this all mean? The structure is sound, the carbon footprint is slashed, and the operational systems are highly profitable.
Everything looks good on paper.
Exactly. But a building is just an empty shell without human beings. How does the interior architecture actually convince a 2026 workforce to endure a morning commute? I mean, if an employee can comfortably work in their pajamas at their kitchen table, what is the pull to bring them into this space?
Well, we connect this to the bigger picture. It requires completely dismantling the traditional philosophy of the office. You cannot simply offer 28 floors of isolated, repetitive cubicles anymore.
No one wants that.
Exactly. To overcome the friction of the modern commute, the developers had to engineer a vertical ecosystem that functions almost like a high-end hospitality venue.
Looking at the floor plans, they approach this by breaking the tower into distinct operational zones. We know floors 1 through 18 serve as the anchor zone for CN.
Right.
But the real shift happens right above them on floors 19, 20, and 21. These act as a dedicated transition and amenity zone.
And this is the critical variable for talent retention. These 3 floors are not traditional desks. They are modernized common spaces shared by all the occupants of the tower.
So everyone gets to use them.
Yes. We're talking about a sophisticated conference center with technologically equipped meeting rooms, a dedicated tenant lounge, an outdoor terrace, and a state-of-the-art wellness facility.
It provides the specific amenities that an employee simply cannot replicate in their home office. And as you move past the amenity zone to the summit of the building floors 22 through 28, the strategy shifts again. The analyses label these as prestige spaces. These are agile, turnkey, plug-and-play offices with premium views.
The leasing philosophy for those top floors is entirely distinct from the CN anchor lease.
How so?
Rather than seeking out another 2-decade commitment, the developers designed these summit floors for shorter, flexible leases.
Okay.
This targets technology firms or professional services that require high-end space, but need the agility to scale their hybrid work rhythms up or down without being locked into a rigid contract. It provides the overall building with economic elasticity.
That makes a lot of sense. But, the redesign isn't just about what happens up in the sky. It's about how the building meets the street.
Very true.
The ground floor and the massive atrium are being reimagined with 30,000 square feet of retail connectivity. The entrance on Beaver Hall Hill is being completely modernized. But the most crucial element of the commute friction is the transit integration.
Yes, the transit is key.
600 DLG features direct connectivity to the Réseau, which is Montreal's famous underground city, as well as the Square Victoria OACI metro station and the Central Station.
That subterranean connectivity is the linchpin of the entire project. By seamlessly blending high-end retail, immediate transit access, premium amenities, and agile workspaces, the building stops functioning as an isolated corporate fortress.
It becomes something else entirely.
Yes, it actively facilitates the concept of the 15-minute city.
Oh, right. For those unfamiliar with the term, the 15-minute city is the urban planning concept, where all of a person's daily necessities, work, shopping, fitness, and transit, are accessible within a 15-minute walk or a short bike ride.
Exactly. When you eliminate the absolute necessity of a car, you create a far more resilient and attractive neighborhood.
It just makes life easier.
It does. And for the city of Montreal, transforming a massive Class A asset into a multi-use, highly connected hub ensures a steady, long-term flow of commercial activity and tax revenue that would have just vanished if the tower had simply been left to age into irrelevance.
It is a profound shift in how we view the life cycle of our infrastructure. I mean, we started this discussion with a monumental corporate departure that easily could have resulted in a vacant 28-story eyesore, casting a long shadow over the downtown core.
It happens all the time.
But instead, that void sparked a $250 million technological and environmental resurrection.
It really serves as a definitive proof of concept. The era of casually knocking down heavy infrastructure and starting over from scratch is becoming environmentally and economically unjustifiable.
And that is why this case study is so vital to you listening right now. Whether you are an urban planner redesigning zoning laws, a commuter riding the metro to work, or just someone who occasionally looks up at the towering steel and glass in your own city.
It affects everyone.
It really does. This smart conversion strategy, recycling the heavy structural bones, completely digitizing the nervous system, and greening the energy supply is the new blueprint. It is precisely how our urban centers are going to adapt and survive the permanent shifts in how we live and work.
It is a remarkable pivot for the real estate industry. And as we watch these retrofits accelerate, it leaves us with an incredibly fascinating question to consider.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if 600 DLG proves that an obsolete 1980s concrete structure can be meticulously transformed into a highly desirable, zero-carbon smart building simply by recycling its steel and concrete bones, what happens to our traditional aesthetic ideas of historic preservation?
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
Right. In the future, will the most technologically advanced cutting-edge buildings in our cities actually be the ones that are secretly 50, 60, or even 100 years old on the inside?
Wow, that is a brilliant thought to leave on. The architectural marvels of tomorrow might literally be the buildings of yesterday, just wearing a brand new, highly engineered suit of glass.
Exactly.
The next time you are walking through the downtown core of your city, look a little closer at the older, quieter towers. They might not be fading relics. After all, they might just be waiting for their own structural surgery. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.